We thank you for joining us today. Glad to have some folks in the house today as well. Very honored to welcome the current class of Leadership Savannah to City Hall today. As a graduate of Leadership Savannah some years ago, and I'm not that old, you're a part of this nation's second oldest leadership program. I think Philadelphia might be first. And I will tell you that the knowledge that I've gained and the relationships that I've built, I continue to cherish even today. And this is some 23 years since I graduated from the program and 21 years since I served as vice president of a Leadership Georgia class. So I look forward to our dialogue shortly. Have some special guests in the house as well, and I'm very glad to have with us our Georgia State Health Director, Dr. Kathleen Toomey, here, my newest, bestest friend, who's visited us on several occasions. Also, our superhero here, Dr. Lawton Davis, our District Health Director. Dr. Georgina Peacock, our Chief Medical Officer for Dr. Toomey. Dr. Chris Rustin, who is the Chatham County Public Health Director, and Dr. Soraya Morris, the Deputy District Health Director. I got it right? So let's welcome them, and we're glad to have them with us. And I will tell you that as we go through this time, as we are trying to navigate to our new normal, it is because of the help of the individuals that I just named that helped us to get to this point. It has not been an easy road. As a matter of fact, it's been quite difficult, but having an ongoing, mutually beneficial, transparent relationship with our public health partners has helped us get to this point. Very courageous conversations, very sage advice, sometimes comforting each other, and sometimes some ardent prayers helped us to navigate to this point where we are today. So I would be remiss if I did not ask Dr. Toomey to come and to give some words. And let's welcome our State Health Director, Dr. Kathleen Toomey. And we're both vaccinated.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor for me to be here today, to be able to thank in person Mayor Johnson all the work that we have done together. I have so appreciated your leadership, and he'll tell you that when I walked in and saw him today, I said, you are the person that's made my job easier, because you have really had such strong leadership here and made such good recommendations. I really welcome you, too, to this world of public health. And it's just an interesting time to be in Leadership Savannah. And as we're coming through this pandemic and working together to try to ensure that we maintain the health as well as the economy during this difficult time. I also have to acknowledge Dr. Davis, because Dr. Davis and his whole team at the district and county offices are the ones that have been my boots on the ground that have made our pandemic response possible. This long year and a half has been an extraordinarily difficult one, I think, for all of us. But as we're coming out of it, I want to remind everyone, we're not through the pandemic yet. Please don't kind of just throw away your mask and say it's over and just move on. We need to move on. We need to continue to visit businesses, support the economy, but we also have to remember that we haven't gotten through this yet. And please, if you haven't, get vaccinated. We have so many opportunities for vaccination throughout the state. Just between now and the 4th of July, we will have over 370 different events statewide at fairs, at churches, at various outdoor amusement parks. take advantage of that, and particularly as your friends and relatives, people you know get vaccinated, and you see that it's effective, it works. I think there'll be more comfort in the community as we move forward. We really have to continue to do this until we can persuade people and get them comfortable with the idea of vaccinations. When Mayor asked me, what are you doing these days, I just almost reflexly went, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. We only have about 51% of people with their first vaccine here in Georgia. We will do better. And we're going to do that quietly in small events, in making individuals comfortable, and providing vaccine in doctors' offices throughout the state, and we will get there. But as I said, please stay with us, stick with us. We will get through this, and we've gotten through this already, and our partnerships will continue to strengthen, and we'll build on those into other areas of health and well-being, even as we move forward. But finally, just again, what a pleasure and an honor to be here today, and to be able to thank the mayor in person for all that he has done for the state as well as Savannah during this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Toomey. Let's give her another round of applause as well to our health. For people who did not realize what public health was, got a new appreciation for our heroes and heroines in the business of public health, and we appreciate you all so much. Needless to say, this is the aftermath of what was an exceedingly difficult and long weekend for us. While we're used to making national news, we made national news this past weekend for something that we are not proud of. This weekend, Savannah, as well as Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Chicago, Illinois, were victimized by mass shootings. The FBI does not define mass shooting as its own term. It only defines mass murderer as someone who kills 4 or more people in one location, and that does not necessarily have to be with a firearm. So the most commonly accepted definition of a mass shooting then is a single incident where 4 or more people are shot or killed. A mass shooting typically occurs in a single place and time, but can include multiple locations in close proximity to each other. And that is what happened on this past Friday night in the 200 block of Avery Street, where 8 people were shot and 2 people have died. The victims range in ages from 33 years old to just 18 months old. The most difficult thing for me to accept that this entire incident may have been avoided, may have been prevented if someone had just simply spoken up the Tuesday before. They did not, and it happened again. And in doing so, a murderer was allowed to continue to walk these streets and was allowed to victimize our community again. We need more information, and simply and plainly put, we need your help. So if you know something about this case, and we know that someone knows something, as a matter of fact, we know a whole bunch of folks know something, we want you to call the SPD Violent Crimes Tip Line at 912-525-3124, 912-525-3124, or Crime Stoppers at 912-234-2020, 912-234-2020. And as always, tipsters remain anonymous and may qualify for a cash reward up to $2,500. And we are prepared to sweeten the pot because we need to get these folks off of our streets. Chief Minter is here, and he will provide an update at the end of my remarks. I do want to thank Chief Minter and our amazing Savannah police officers for their dedicated work over this past weekend, even as we speak, to find those responsible for this terrible act. But we will not conflate issues here. Our city is safe, we have a wonderful city, and we have people who just don't act wonderfully. And if they don't deserve to be in our city, it's our job to make sure that they are not. We have our issues, just like every other major city in our country. Although our homicides is still down from this time last year, our violent crime rate is up to about 12%, mostly from non-fatal shootings. These are not random shootings, and they generally involve people who know each other and have some type of beef with each other. They're either disgruntled and have issues regarding drugs, money, or women. They're in possession of a firearm, and they legally do not own or should not have that firearm. Further, in Georgia, any organization, association, or group of 3 or more persons associated with a criminal act which engages in criminal activity, the term gang must be included in this dialogue. So we've acknowledged in the past and continue to acknowledge, using this definition, we have issues with gangs and we must continue to address them. With the summer approaching, we have anticipated this annual uptick in violent crime, particularly with the reopening of our city. We also have realized and said publicly that more police is not the answer. We've tried that, it didn't work. Better policing is the answer. And public safety, where the public is a capital P, is the answer. Creating opportunities for us, for those who want to do better, and removing those from our community who have not demonstrated they can live peaceably among civilized people is our aim. Our criminal justice system is slowly revving up after a hiatus of over a year, and we expect that many of those on our streets during this period will be facing the charges against them. We simply have individuals that have been indicted that are still walking the streets. Under normal circumstances, they would be locked up, and that needs to be rectified. I've asked the city manager and the police chief to use every legal resource available to us, including our federal, state, and local partners, to identify and target those who remain involved with violent criminal activity. We want them off of our streets. We also realize that we must go to a much more basic, much more granular level, which is why we've already enlisted the help of some Shero moms in our community, and this weekend we are adding dads. On this Friday, I will hold a press conference at 3 p.m. with some super dads ahead of Father's Day to engage fathers and father figures to step up and do their part to help keep our community safe. It's important for us as we move forward that police can't parent, parents parent. Police are a part of the village, but the police are not a village. And so we need those that are closest to these young people to be able to engage them in ways that we can't. And so that is what we're asking our community to do. Our moms have already stepped up, and we have created 10 ways in 100 days to engage our young people, and not so young, in ways we've never done it before. Knowing who they are, who their friends are, knowing where they are, knowing who they're hanging with, and having a zero tolerance for criminal activity. And harboring someone that you know is doing crime, no matter who they are, you might be just as guilty as the person pulling the trigger. And I'm blessed to have grown up with parents that would have turned me in had they known that I was involved in criminal activity. And we need more parents like that. Yesterday, the city manager, the police chief, and I met with the family of William Harvey, who died in police custody on April the 3rd while being questioned by police. I committed to Mr. Harvey's mother on the morning after his passing that the city of Savannah, vis-a-vis the police department, would be transparent and forthright with her in finding the answers that she and her family deserve. Simply put, Mr. Harvey was in the custody, care, and control of the Savannah Police Department, and he should not have died. After an internal investigation by the Savannah Police Department's Internal Affairs Unit, it was determined that 3 officers violated departmental policies, 2 were terminated, and 1 was suspended. In another but related investigation involving a meme sent in a group text message to several officers, 3 officers were fired. These officers were afforded the right of appeal before Chief Mentor and another appeal before City Manager Michael Brown. In all cases, the terminations and suspensions were upheld. When you do something wrong, you own up to it, and then you work to make it right. And so we've admitted that, we own up to it, and we've done our best to make it right, understanding fully we cannot replace that which was lost. And we again send our apologies and condolences to the Harvey family, and I had the opportunity to express that to them personally yesterday. We still await the conclusion of the criminal investigation by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Again, Chief Mentor is here and will be available to answer any additional questions you may have. As Dr. Toomey said, Georgia's COVID vaccination rates are increasing slowly, but still sit well below the national average. As of today, about 34% of Chatham County residents are fully vaccinated, meaning that, again, 56% of us are not. And while this number is creeping up slowly, most of us, and the key word here is most of us, are still not vaccinated. Approximately 38% of us are partially vaccinated, and in our surrounding counties, these rates are even lower. We want everyone to know the facts and get your vax. I am fully vaccinated, and a mask is still a permanent part of my wardrobe. The best way for us to get to our pre-pandemic lifestyle is for us to get a COVID-19 shot. There are variants out there that these smart people were talking about in my office that I did not know what they were talking about, but they know what they were talking about, and there is cause for concern, particularly this summer and also in the fall. The vaccination clinic at the Savannah Civic Center is open on Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Both the Pfizer and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines are available. The Chatham County Health Department and CORE are hosting pop-up vaccines this week. Both the Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson vaccines are available. You can pre-register at gachd.org/vaccine, gachd.org/vaccine, and walk-ins are also welcome. You can get a COVID shot today at Patron Bar and Grill, located at 4396 Ogeechee Road from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Get a margarita while you're there. That's today, Patron Bar and Grill, 4396 Ogeechee Road from 11 to 4 p.m. And again, great food and great libations as well. If you go there, if any of you go there today, I will pay for your margarita, okay? I'm serious. Don't all go at once. You can get a COVID vaccine tomorrow at Park Place Outreach, located at 514 East Henry Street from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And on Saturday, you can get a vaccine from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Conquest Insurance in Pooler. And on Sunday is Father's Day, the day that we salute our dads. And if you love your dad, I want you to take your dad to get a COVID shot. Take your dad to get a COVID shot before you take him to dinner from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Connors Temple Baptist Church, located at 509 West Gwinnett Street. 509 West Gwinnett Street, and that's at the corner of MLK. As more people become vaccinated, life starts to look a little more normal. We will be able to welcome our events back safely to the Savannah Civic Center. There will be limited capacity, and attendees will be socially distanced. Mask and temperature checks will be required for entry. You can check out the full schedule of upcoming events and purchase tickets at savannahcivic.com, savannahcivic.com. We want residents to reimagine recreation beyond what it is, and we've talked about this and what we know it could be in the future. And so Recreation Reimagined is the City of Savannah's initiative to improve, standardize, and reimagine city's recreation and leisure services, facilities, and programs. Visit savannahga.gov/rec, R-E-C, reimagined, to share your thoughts, and call 912-651-6520 for more information. This week, we celebrate some of the hardest working folks on Team Savannah, and that's our Waste and Recycling Workers Week. And so to show your appreciation, we want you to create and display signs in your yard or your porch, in your lane, wherever they'll be seen through June 18th to recognize the men and women who help keep our neighborhoods clean. And we want you to share those pictures on social media by tagging the City of Savannah and, of course, using our hashtag SavannahStrong. Recapping last week's City Council meeting, we approved a $1.2 million contract for drainage improvements at the Placenta Canal at Savannah State University. This is the city's third cumulative improvement to address bottlenecks in the Placenta Basin in the last 12 months, and this improvement project is fully funded by SPLOST 6. And as we know, SPLOST works. We also accepted donations from First Chatham Bank and CSX Transportation to the Savannah Affordable Housing Fund. These generous donations will continue to support the city's volunteer and minor home improvement programs to help address our affordable housing needs in our city. So big thank yous to First Chatham Bank and big thank yous to CSX Transportation. We appreciate your investment in our community. And a big congratulations to the first graduates of Savannah's Construction Ready program. And we're excited for them to now take their acquired knowledge and begin new careers in the construction industry. And we thank everyone who made this program possible in our city. The next class starts on August the 23rd at Connors Temple Baptist Church. The training is free, and the course is only 20 days, but you learn a bunch of stuff in 20 days. And you do not need any prior experience to participate. To register, visit constructionready.org/new career. constructionready.org/new career. This Saturday, we will recognize Juneteenth. It commemorates the day that Union General Gordon Granger read federal orders in Galveston, Texas, on June 19, 1865, stating that all previously enslaved folks in Texas were free. Within 7 months of signing the proclamation, at the time there were more than 30 black regiments in existence. By 1865, there were 186 all-black regiments and approximately 180,000 black soldiers and 29,511 black sailors, and most of them were former slaves. Another 200,000 black men and women served as scouts, spies, laborers, blacksmiths, nurses, cooks, and guides. And it took 2 years for the enslaved people in Texas to learn that President Abraham Lincoln had issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January the 1st, 1963. So as a descendant of enslaved people, it's not lost upon me that it's because of the contributions, the sacrifice, the shedding of blood of those that were enslaved that I'm able to stand here as an African American in these halls that people who look like me were not able to stand some years ago. And so I was honored to issue the first proclamation in our city's history, officially declaring Juneteenth a holiday in the city of Savannah, and this will be the second year of our commemoration. And so there are events all around our city. There's an event at Tybee Island, there is an event here in Savannah, there is an event in Garden City. The Telfair, I believe, is having an event, and I encourage our citizens to not only attend these events, but take your children to attend these events, because this is American history. This is American history. Finally, I'm pleased to announce that the Savannah City Council has narrowed the pool of applicants for the Savannah City Manager to 3 finalists. The finalists are Heath Lloyd, Assistant City Manager, Savannah, Georgia; Cheryl Long, Assistant City Manager of Cincinnati, Ohio; and Jay Melder, Assistant City Manager, Assistant City Administrator of Washington, D.C. This was a long process, but it was a process I think that was thorough, and I think we have 3 excellent candidates with a diverse range of experience. These candidates will be in Savannah on June the 25th and the 26th to participate in interview sessions with our community panels. City council members, as before, will appoint citizen and business community representatives to conduct panel interviews with the finalists. And I want to thank my colleagues on the Savannah City Council for their patience and their work during this process. We are well on our way to naming Savannah's next city manager. So that being said, I'll ask Chief Mentor to come up and give his update, or if you want to do me first and do Chief, how y'all want to do it? Me first? All right, so I'll answer any questions you may have.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, how are you? Good.
So you mentioned that a second person has died from Friday's shooting. Can you give an update on their age and then an update on other victims?
Let the Chief do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question, when it comes to gun violence, you mentioned that the answer is better policing. What plans do you have in place to work towards that?
I can't hear you.
What plans do you have in place for better policing?
Well, again, I think that we're recognizing here that people come to life as they are. We have a behavioral policing unit. I talked with Dr. Toomey about this. I think that gun violence is a health issue. I think that we have young men in our community that suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. When people go to war and they come home from war, they're given counseling because they recognize they experience some trauma. And we have young people that have experienced trauma, and they grow up to be older people with trauma. And the trauma not addressed is acted out in a variety of ways. Some people handle it differently than others. Not to excuse the criminal act, but we recognize that there are people out there that need help. I was taught how to peaceably resolve my conflicts. And then we have a proliferation of guns in Georgia. We cannot have guns everywhere and then be mad when guns show up everywhere. If Chief and Mentor and I are having a fight and we both put down our guns, then we just have a fist fight, of which Chief Mentor is going to lose. But for us, it's really a matter of removing guns out of that equation, teaching young people, and not so young people, of how to better deal with conflict. And police can't do that necessarily, which is why we have to engage parents and fathers and mothers, loved ones, spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, to be able to say, talk them down. People in the community say, you know what, let that go, let it go, let it go. And put some time between the incident which I'm grieved or vexed and the time I want to put that out there. Chief Mentor will tell you, there several times we're at the hospital and I'm talking to a young person that is suffering from a gunshot wound that says, I don't want to tell you who shot me. What sense does that make? And as the young person said, well, I'll see you later, Mayor. I said, no, I'll probably see you. You probably won't see me. We have to really change the paradigm, and we need partners in this. That's what's going to make Savannah different. Because people say, more police, more police, more police. No, the fact of the matter is, if I wanted to shoot you right now, I might get caught, but there's nothing going to stop me from shooting you right now. And so I think we have to recognize that. And so what we need is policing that addresses, and again, we're at the forefront of that. We're putting money into Savannah Impact for those that have criminal records. If you want to do better, those that are coming from home, from jails and prisons across our country, and when you're coming home, we have to have opportunities for you to do better. And I just think that people that have jobs and have opportunities, those who can see tomorrow are working towards tomorrow. They don't see their lives in terms of today. So it's a all hands-on approach. I've heard from every person in the world has given me every solution for it, and I believe that it's probably a combination of all those things. But on the other end of it, I've had people say, let the police do their job, take the handcuffs off the police. I'm like, what are you talking about? Articulable suspicion is still the same. Probable cause is still the same. The mechanics of arrest are still the same. Use of force continuum is still the same. So the police can do their jobs. But we're saying as a community that we don't even want it to get to a point where the police have to intervene. And so to use Friday's incident, had someone intervened then, because obviously there was beef and people knew about it. If somebody said something, maybe we could have intervened and separated these parties so that this did not happen. And now people are talking, but we shouldn't have to wait until something happens for people to talk. So.
And as far as tourists coming to the city, what would you say to them who may be scared or worried to come to the city?
Savannah's still safe. I mean, you show me a major city in our country that does not have some issue regarding crime, and I'll show you that you're on Mars. Our city is safe. Again, I've articulated the situations in which people are involved in crime. Our violent crime is not random. It's not random crime. It's people who know each other. And so, as I've told a group of young people, if I'm not messing with anybody's drugs, nobody's woman, and I'm not messing with nobody's money, I won't have a problem. Carry on and spend a lot of money in Savannah. We're glad you're here.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
I spoke with a few city council members yesterday who said they believe we could use more cameras across the city, different resources to try and help catch these people who are committing this type of violence. And what are your thoughts about that? Do you think it's something that we could benefit from?
Well, in the midst of a defund the police movement, the city council actually added $4 million to the police budget for this year. It's $4 million, Chief, right? $4 million for technology. Now, keep in mind now, cameras don't prevent crime. It just captures the act of crime. So for us, we have instituted more cameras. We're continuously doing that. Again, we have to get involved in the person-to-person psychology of it all. And so we'll continue to do that. We'll do whatever our citizens are willing to pay for. And so for us, I think it exemplifies the need that we have a well-funded police department that has above the national average in clearing crimes. We have to get to the point where crimes don't happen in the first place. And so hence the work that we're doing with poverty reduction, affordable housing, reentry. I think that type of work becomes very, very, very important because, again, it gets us to a point where these things don't happen. And I will continue to ask the state and our state leaders that we need common sense gun legislation in our communities. Right now, police cannot do various things in the course of their duties just to ensure that a person that legally has a gun has a gun. If I have a gun, if I have a driver's license, I can show proof I can drive the car. So why not the same for a weapon? And so again, we can't be mad that guns are everywhere. And as a community, we're going to have to say enough is enough. They're happening all over the place. And the summer is coming, and I'm fearing that times might get harder.
Do you think our gun laws here in Georgia are the stem of this problem?
No. I think it's a symptom of the problem. Again, I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm a former law enforcement officer, and I carry. But to that end, we recognize that there are guns. People who are responsible gun owners are not the ones committing these crimes. And so there is a market out there for guns that are stolen or illegally acquired. We know here in Savannah that people, for some reason, still leave their car doors open, and they still think that if I put the gun underneath my seat or in the glove compartment or in the console, that nobody will see it. And everybody knows that's where you look. And so people are breaking into houses. They're not looking at TVs, they're looking for guns. So if we can prevent the crimes of opportunities on one end, and then make sure that we are sending a very clear message that people who have guns, who should not have guns, face the full force of the law. And so that means stiff sentences for those that are involved in violent crime. My expectation is that our criminal justice system, our district attorney, and courts will take this as seriously as we take it.
And Alderman Curtis Burchie having that open forum on Thursday night, do you think this is kind of the first step in addressing this violent trend here in Savannah?
Well, I think we have to all talk. And we have to talk because people will say, and it's the strangest thing, you know, that never happens here. I just thought it happened on another side of town. The fact is, crime, like the weather, it moves. It does not know a geographical boundary. So for people talking about crime, for people being engaged in crime, unfortunately, an incident like this had to happen, but this is what we do here at City Hall every single day. Every single day. And so if we have more eyes looking at it, more mouths speaking it, more courageous conversations about how we are all a part of eradicating it, then I think it's for the better.
Moving to the city manager search now, what is your goal to have somebody hired from these three finalists?
I'm hoping within the next 60 days to have someone in place. Again, all of that depends on the negotiation process.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nancy with the Savannah Morning News.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had a question about the shooting that happened on Saturday. You said that if someone had simply spoken up on Tuesday, this could have been avoided, but many of the residents there say that it's not so simple. They're either afraid of retaliation or they haven't seen changes in the past before. So they feel neglect from the city or law enforcement. So what do you say to that? And how do you plan on really understanding what's going on in the neighborhood and creating more in-depth solutions that go to the source?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. First of all, behavior unchallenged remains unchanged. So the fact of the matter was not speaking got us into this situation. You know, we recognize, and I've told people they can call me directly. They don't have to call the police, they can call me. And I've gotten a bunch of calls, and people have called and reached out to me in various ways, giving me information. They can continue to do that. You know, the fact of the matter is that we have to be actively involved in protecting our community. This could have easily been 8 fatalities. Easily. But for the grace of God, it was not. And so it's important for us to engage, and in any way people want to engage. I was in the community yesterday. We've been through there throughout the weekend, and we've actually been there for the last several weeks. So, you know, we accept the fact that we have to communicate in ways people feel comfortable communicating, but the role is you have to communicate. You can't just say, well, I just don't want to say anything. Because again, you know, the fact was, you know, perhaps if we were able to get that person off to the streets on Tuesday, Friday would not have happened. And so I'm not blaming, but I'm challenging people to say, if we're going to do better, we have to do better.
I mean, prior to the incident, did you go into the neighborhood before to establish that, you know, environment where they could come to you?
Absolutely, several times. The chief and I, a couple of aldermen, we walked that area. This is an area that's known to us. We're very familiar with Avery Street. And so we were there in the evening, we were there at night. People like, oh, that's the mayor. Yeah, it's the mayor. What's up? Let's talk. So again, I'm not hard to find. So, you know, trust and rapport is reciprocal. And we'll make ourselves available, and I'll continue to make myself available to anybody who wants to talk. I mean, I understand the thought of retaliation, or threat of retaliation, but I'm also concerned about the threat of doing nothing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening.
Hey, sir, how are you?
Pretty good. I wanted to talk about something that also Chief Engineer asked me about earlier, so keep that in mind when you're answering. Did you happen to see the meme that was the subject of the second investigation?
I did. I saw it very recently.
Gotcha. It's pretty rough. So my question for you is, police are trained now, there's sensitivity training in place. We've talked about it for years and years. Is this an issue that training can fix, or is this a deeper rooted departmental culture issue?
I think it's a couple of things. Obviously insensitive. I recognize that as a police officer, that police officers have really weird senses of humor. But the fact of the matter was, this wasn't funny. There was nothing funny about it. And given the circumstances that were just facing our department, the fact was that was sent to a group of officers, not to the entire watch of officers. And so my question is, what other communications occurred between this group? I think more importantly to me is that you had supervisors that were a part of this chain that could have easily said, stop. This is inappropriate. Stop this. Stop it immediately. And it did not happen. So as we're talking about a police department that is more sensitive, and then we had a family, a mother who had lost her son, a son who had lost his father, a sister who lost her brother, officers that were involved at that time in an incident in which someone died while in their custody. It just was not sensitive at all. And so we will continue to train, but we have to also send a very clear message that this behavior is unacceptable in our department. So while I don't think that the officers meant to be mean, the fact was that it was mean.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm not sure if this is going to come out as a question or a comment, but my grandmother, my 70-year-old grandmother, lives in the neighborhood where the shooting happened. About half of the week I spent out there with my grandmother. She's pretty self-sufficient, but that's my grandmother, of course. And my question is, what do we say to the people that live out there that are not involved in, of course, any crime? Besides, Savannah is still safe. So I was standing outside on the front porch talking on the phone when that shooting happened. And it could have easily been me killed or grazed at that time. And just to add to that, that neighborhood is not a neighborhood that I believe people come or should come to stay. It's a transitional place. So how do we make sure that people are not sitting there for decades?
Yeah, I think the most difficult part for me was if people are combatants in criminal activity and they want to kill each other, then have at it. The fact was there were innocent people who had nothing to do with it, that were around and were collateral damage in all of this. We are having some very courageous conversations with the Housing Authority of Savannah. We have advocated, and I've advocated, that they need some sort of security force for their areas to help supplement what we're doing. As someone who grew up in public housing in New York, or around public housing, the Housing Authority had security, both police security and citizen-led security. We have to get individuals off of our streets, and that's the bottom line. My heart goes out to your grandmother, who should not have to endure that kind of stuff. which is why we're working every day. And if we have to revoke the bond of every person that's involved in criminal activity, again, we have to get them off of the streets. We have to get them off of the streets because people should have the right and the opportunity to sit on their porch and enjoy the day. And as for me, I'm in that area. I've been various areas across South City, and I could be on a porch with somebody. It could have been me. It could have been anybody. And so that is why we have to remove those people who have just determined not to live peaceably. And so I'm committed to doing that. Baby girl, my apologies.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, Alex.
So, in the state of Georgia, there are 71,000 named gangs. Obviously,
71,000?
named gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, an issue in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the city of Savannah has tiptoed around that issue in the past?
No, my former press briefings, I've said we have gangs, but it's different than gangs as we would know them from the movies. Our gangs, again, 3 or more people involved in criminal activity, they're much more fluid. Today you're a part of the WSAV gang, tomorrow you join the WTOC gang. I mean, it's much more fluid, so it's really a lot harder to really keep up with. But again, the chief will talk a little bit more about their efforts as it relates to that. I think part of it deals with identification. After we identify, we have to be able to have those conversations. Do you choose to continue this life, which is part of what the End Gun Violence Program is about? Do you choose to continue this activity? If you do, there is an expected end for you. If you don't, then let's find ways to help you be successful. But there are people in our community that are terrorized by these folks. We know who they are. We know where they live. Their parents know who they are and know that these young people are living in their homes, which is why it's so important for us at a very granular level. Young people will do what their parents ask them to do more than they'll do what the police or their mayor asks them to do. And so that's why we're enlisting that help of those moms, those dads, to get our young people out of that life.
And to your knowledge, how many identified gangs are there in the city? Do you know any of them?
I know several of them. I know several of the names. I know several of the members. I'll let the chief go into exact numbers because I'm not sure.
And as far as incentives to get the community to talk, I know Crime Stoppers obviously offers, a reward. Is that something the city would consider or plans to do in order to get people to come forward?
Absolutely, and stay tuned.
That's all.
Yeah, if we have whatever we got to do, again, we want them off the streets. And so I don't care who it is. If you're a threat to one person, you're a threat to every person in the city. And so therefore, we'll deal with you in that way.
My last question, and you kind of touched on this, the fact that people haven't come forward and aren't talking to you and aren't talking to the police, what do you think that says about police-community relations?
I don't think it has a lot to say about police-community relations in Savannah. I think it has to deal with culture. You used to, when we were growing up, you had parents telling people don't tattletale. And we grow up and we say don't snitch. And then you have kids saying snitches get stitches and end up in ditches. I mean, I think it's that welfare of which people say that I don't have anything to do with that, so therefore I don't have anything to say about that. Well, we've shown conclusively that it does have something to do with you. And so I'm going to tell because I don't want this person to come after me. And so, we have seen what happens when people don't talk. And so now people are talking because they recognize just how dangerous this was. And so for us, it's continued community engagement. I think our police have a good relationship with our community. And we're going to continue to improve on that. And I think that the tips and things that we've received in the last couple of days is proof positive that we have a good relationship. It has to be nurtured. It has to be fed and nourished, and we'll continue to be able to do that. But the fact is that we're all in this together. Public safety is the public's responsibility.
My last question is sort of more of a personal question for you. When this mass shooting took place, from my understanding, you were in New York, correct?
I was what?
In New York, correct?
I was not in the city.
You were not in the city.
Yes.
Okay. And to not be here when that took place, I mean, you know, what was that like for you to not be able to have your boots on the ground and you know, be at that time?
Well, there was a couple of things. I was in a different time zone, so I was literally up the entire night. And so the chief was in constant communication with me throughout the night as we figured out what was going on. And so I was fully involved and engaged. As a matter of fact, did a couple of meetings via phone and then talking with aldermen as well. So it didn't change anything. I would have wanted to be here as I usually am. On the other end of it, I had business I needed to attend to for myself.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sean?
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Just one quick question for me. Later this afternoon, I know you're going to be joining several mayors from other cities around the nation that experienced gun violence over the weekend.
Yes.
What conversation are you going to be bringing to the table to push the agenda forward for these laws that y'all would really like to see at the federal level?
We need federal gun laws that make sense. Right now, they don't. And with every state doing its own thing, again, you see major cities across the country, which Savannah is now, having these same challenges. And so we need some assistance from our federal government to help us to make laws that make sense in our communities and make it easier for our police departments to be able to engage and make it easier for legal folks to keep their guns, but make it much harder for those who are involved in violent incidents, those that are involved in domestic incidents, those who have history of mental health issues from having a gun. You know, we need that help on a federal standpoint, and I'm glad to join with mayors from across the country in that national conversation today.
Thanks.
Thank you. Chief? We sorry, y'all. We'll be with you in a moment.
Good morning, folks. Let me start with giving you an update on the actual investigation. Unfortunately, I'm starting with some sad news. As the mayor stated, we had another victim of the shooting who succumbed to his injuries. It's going to be a 29-year-old male. Bianca will have a press release out for you later on this morning with more details involving that person. So that puts us at 2 deceased and 6 injured as a result of this shooting. All other victims received non-life-threatening injuries or are listed in stable condition as a result of their injuries. We had talked Saturday at the press conference about a possible red sedan we were looking for. On Saturday night, over in the Central Precinct area, we located some individuals in a red sedan. We attempted to stop that vehicle. That vehicle attempted to flee from the officers. The officers were able to eventually get that vehicle stopped. They were able to detain or take one person into custody. From that vehicle, the other person fled into a residence over the area. The officers were able to surround that residence and order that person out of the residence. Here's what I can tell you. At this time, detectives are still investigating, trying to determine whether or not those 2 individuals who were arrested on Saturday night are connected to the Avery Street incident. We don't have any connection at this time, but we did locate some individuals in a red Honda. Give you an update on one of the situations that occurred on Sunday at the hospital. We apparently are not the only ones trying to find out who's involved in the shooting. We actually had the brother of one of the victims who had to be escorted out of Memorial Hospital because he was there trying to interview some of the shooting victims to see if they would provide him with information on who they thought or who they think may be involved in these shootings. So with everything going on, we're looking at establishing a reward fund for information leading to the identification and arrest of suspects involved in the shooting. We're going to start this fund with an amount of $10,000. We're hoping this will generate some additional leads for this case, and some additional information regarding this actual reward fund will be provided to you later on today. Right now, our focus is on what I'm referring to as the 3 W's. The first one stands for who. Of course, we are actively working on trying to identify who the suspect or suspects are and arresting and removing those individuals from our community. The second W stands for what. And we're looking to see if we can determine what are the factors that led to this incident, where we had at least 3 apartments, 6 vehicles damaged by gunfire, 60 shell casings, and at least 8 people transported to the hospital, including an 8-month-old infant. Now, I had a couple people ask me about the condition of the 18-month-old infant. That infant received a graze wound to the ankle. So fortunately for that. And of course, 2 of the individuals involved in this incident tragically has lost their lives. And then the last W stands for why. We want to know why we're continuing to see people making poor, tragic decisions using firearms in our community. We are really thankful for the assistance we have been and continue to receive from our local, state, and federal partners who have stepped up to assist us with this investigation. But we're also very encouraged by the level of community support that we're receiving right now. Everything from, I'm sure you've heard about Alderman Pertee, to community of faith members who are stepping up. Tourism Leadership Council has contacted me. 2 of our state representatives reached out to me, Carl Gilliard and Derek Mallow, have reached out to me, and we're looking for and continue to get more input and assistance from community members. As we stated, we realize that there are some people out there who are hesitant about providing information to us, but they may provide that information to some of our community members. A few of our community members are very interested in going out to the community, holding some type of event and opening or establishing the lines of communication there to assist us with addressing and resolving this particular situation. So that's the update that I have right now for you folks. I'll answer any questions that I may be able to answer at this time.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
First things first, the mayor mentioned, with gun violence, that the solution is not necessarily more officers, but better policing. Do you share that same belief when it comes to curbing gun violence in Savannah?
Well, absolutely. One of the things that we've been talking about is we need not just a law enforcement approach. We need a holistic, community-based approach to address this. This is not just a law enforcement issue. This is a community issue, and we need the community to work together to assist us with addressing these issues that are going on out in the community. We're doing our part. I mean, we're out there, we're actively engaging with individuals, we're actively involved in enforcement activities, but it's going to take more than that to address these types of serious issues.
With your meeting with the Harvey family yesterday, can you kind of just give us some insight on, what was said on your end and kind of what the conversation was with that family yesterday?
Well, yes, what I can tell you is this is the second time that the mayor and I met with the Harvey family. It's been extremely heartbreaking to see the impact this particular situation has had on the Harvey family. I can tell you they're good people. We've met with them a couple of times, and this is a situation that I hate to see them have to endure and try and live through. I hope and pray that they find some type of comfort knowing that the Savannah Police Department did what we had to do to hold members of our organization accountable. I don't think any of these officers had any malicious intent in what they did, but they made some poor decisions and didn't follow department policy and procedure. Of course, poor decisions have consequences. In this particular situation, had severe consequences. I can tell you I personally watched part of a video involving the interaction between the detective and Mr. Harvey, and then some additional videos, and I can tell you it was one of the hardest things for me to watch when I watched that video. It bothers me even more that we had members of the department that did not follow department policy and procedure and could have made better decisions that I believe, if those two things were done, could have possibly prevented Mr. Harvey from losing his life.
Now, I learned yesterday that these officers were terminated because they violated department policy. Is the department looking at changing the policy regarding this incident?
No, the policies are great. The policies are solid. The policies that were in place to address and prevent something like this from happening. The issue is not the policy. The issue is failure to follow the policy.
Last question for you. The attorneys of the Harvey family yesterday mentioned that since this has all been brought up, there's been complaints that have come through them on unrelated issues that may have been similar with other police officers, and they've been forwarded to you. Are there any other investigations unrelated to the death of Mr. Harvey that you're now looking into because of this?
No, I read that statement. I'm not sure that it said that those complaints have already been forwarded to us. But if there is information out there regarding anything that has to do with the conduct or responsibilities of members of the department, we want to know about it. And we'll make sure that we conduct a thorough and detailed investigation as we did in this case.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
How unsettling is it for you that these victims who were shot Friday night will not talk to police, will not tell you who did it to get this person off the street to prevent them from doing something like this again?
Well, I mean, it's very concerning. I mean, when you look at what happened on Friday night, and you actually pair that up with what happened Tuesday night, a couple of days before, where we realized the same address was targeted on Tuesday night. Nobody would talk to us on Tuesday, nobody would talk to us on Wednesday, and then 2 days later we had a mass shooting at that location. We continue to encourage members of our department and let them know that even if they don't want to come forward to us, there are several avenues, communication avenues, that they can use to get information to us. So the fact that nobody saw the need to bring that information forward is disappointing. It's about the best word I can use. It's disappointing.
And how helpful is it, things like cameras, ShotSpotter, when you are trying to find these suspects, having those resources, how helpful is it for you and your department in investigations like this one?
Well, of course it's helpful. I mean, the technology is always helpful. It's been very useful in a lot of investigations that we've been involved in, and some of the investigations that we've been involved in, we probably would not have been able to proceed in those investigations had it not been for some of the technology that we use. So it's very helpful.
Do you think it's something that we need more of in Savannah?
Well, we need to look at that. We continue to have those discussions about expanding technology in the city, especially in certain parts of the city where we kind of lack in the area of technology improvements. So it's absolutely something that we need to look at and continue to have that discussion.
Last thing for me, having open community discussions like the forum is going to take place on Thursday, how important is that for our community, from your point of view, to be able to try and stop this violent trend that has been going on?
Well, I think it's very important. It's very important for us to continue to stay connected with members of our community, to continue to keep the lines of communication open with members of our community, but more importantly, continue to build that great relationship and partnership with the members of our community. So anything that we can do to promote those factors, I think is great for us and it's great for the city as a whole.
Thank you, Chief.
Hi, good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Nancy.
Yeah, I have a couple questions about both cases, the Saturday shooting, also the William Harvey.
Actually, the shooting was on Friday.
On Friday, sorry.
Yes. Okay.
So my first question has a lot to do with what I had asked Mayor Johnson earlier, and you said that the solution is a holistic community-based approach. But can you explain what that looks like, especially for a community that may not have that trust in law enforcement?
Well, when I'm talking about a holistic community-based approach, I'm talking about things in addition to what law enforcement can do. Addressing issues of poverty, blight, education, employment, but also looking at good, strong mentoring programs in our community, re-entry programs in our community, getting involved in our youth and our adults' lives in our community. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about a holistic, community-based approach.
Okay, and moving on to the Harvey case, you said earlier that you don't think the officers had any malicious intent. They just made poor decisions, but as a result of those poor decisions, someone had died. How do you plan on, ensuring that doesn't happen again? You said the policies in place work, but are there other ways you're thinking of changing things, like training and recruiting officers to ensure that those policies are followed?
Well, there are a couple of things that have already been done. We've already made sure that we have had a conversation with members of the department and reinforced the existing policy and procedure and reinforced our expectations of following the policies and procedures that are in place. But we also had a conversation, I've had a conversation with members of the department at all levels, from the chief all the way down to the corporal sergeant's position, about duties and responsibilities of supervisors in supervisory duties and responsibilities, and ensuring that individuals of the department are not only aware of department policies and procedures, but also are following department policies and procedures.
And are you considering pursuing criminal charges against any of the officers?
That's not for me to consider. That is between the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the District Attorney's Office.
Okay.
Our focus was on the internal investigation. The other part, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation is looking into.
So when can we expect to get, more details of what happened with the Harvey case, and also in terms of the meeting?
Well, we're done with the internal investigation involving the in-custody death and the meme. Everything else will have to be discussed with the GBI and the District Attorney's Office.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chief, for you.
Hey, well.
I wanted to talk about that internal investigation, both the one with the original Harvey case and the meme. I know GBI covers a lot of that initial investigation, but I was wondering, what is the department's role? And I don't know how much of that you can talk about, it's under investigation and everything, but can you kind of just talk about the process that the professional standards unit goes through in order to investigate something like this?
Well, the professional standards unit conducted an internal investigation looking at policies, procedures, and administrative standards. That's what we looked at. The GBI is looking at the actual cause and circumstances involving Mr. Harvey's death. So that's the difference between the two. Did department members follow established department policies and procedures? And if not, we investigated why those department policies, procedures, and administrative standards were not followed.
Yeah, so in this case, would that be, in effect, looking at the group message or looking at communication between officers, taking cell phones and looking at that? Like, what was the process there?
Well, the process there was looking at the information that was presented to us regarding the alleged conduct by members of the department. Basically, the chat meme that was sent out to a certain group was one patrol team of department members.
And so just interviewing them, talking about what happened, is that what? I'm sorry, I'm really trying to get people to do the process.
Yeah, basically it was identifying members who were possibly involved in that matter, interviewing those members, and then assessing whether or not the information we received rose to the level where we believe that it actually showed there was a violation of department policy procedures.
In this case, yeah.
Correct.
I guess, do you know for certain that this is not widespread in the department? Do you know that this type of, I don't want to be condemning, but just this type of behavior is not something that happens within the rest of the state police department?
Well, let me break the two situations out. Let me start with the in-custody death. I can tell you I've been in law enforcement over 35 years. I've never seen a situation where we've had an in-custody, where I've been experiencing in-custody death with any agency where somebody's been left unmonitored in an interview room. I can tell you, talking to, and there are a couple of Savannah Police Department veterans standing right over there, to their knowledge, this has never happened before in the Savannah Police Department where we've had an in-custody death in an interview room. Going to the other side about the meme that was sent out, that was very inappropriate. And it is something that's unexcusable. And I can tell you that I had several department members come to me and tell me how embarrassed they were that something like that was sent out by anyone who's a member of the Savannah Police Department. That tells me we don't have a cultural issue inside the department. We had an issue with individuals inside the department who made another very poor decision.
That's my next question. How's the department responded to kind of what's happened? What's the temperature like up there right now?
The temperature on that is that it should have never happened. It was totally inappropriate, and it embarrassed the members of the department.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
So I kind of want to pose the same question that I posed to Mayor Van Johnson, and want to hear that from you. Do you believe that Savannah has a gang issue, and do you believe that it's been tiptoed around in the past?
I'm not sure if it's been tiptoed around. I mean, we're looking, obviously, there is a gang issue in the city or a gang involvement issue in the city. I mean, when you're picking up the newspaper and you're seeing things like indictments that are coming down from gang members, that tells you that there is a concern in the community regarding gang level activity. So I'm not sure that that's something that, you know, that the department and or the city has not taken serious, but it is something that we do need to continue to address.
And I know you're investigating the connection between, you know, last Tuesday's shooting and the mass shooting on Friday. Is there any sense that it could have possibly been some kind of get back, some kind of retaliation? I know there's been talk in the street about that.
Well, as I stated Saturday during my press conference, the preliminary information we have right now is that Saturday's shooting and Tuesday's incident may involve a conflict between two groups.
And from, I believe your press conference, you had said there were 60 bullet casings that were found at the scene.
At least 60 shell casings.
And do you believe there was more than one person that committed this mass shooting? Do you think there were more than one gun involved? You know, what can you talk about that?
We're still working through that part of the investigation. I know there were a lot of shell casings out there, and I'm pretty sure 60 shell casings did not come from just one weapon.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Plum.
I just want to touch really briefly on the danger of a situation like that, where so many indiscriminate shots are being fired out the window of a car or someone on the street, whatever the case may be. It really drive home the point of, the mayor said that there could easily be fatalities on Friday night. How we could end up with more fatalities in the future if people continue to act this way.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that's the reason why this is a very high priority for us in the Savannah Police Department. Identifying who the suspect or the suspects are, and arresting those individuals and removing those individuals from our community. When you have that much disregard for the lives of others, that you just indiscriminately start firing rounds into a crowd of other individuals, and 8 individuals end up receiving gunshot wounds, and 2 of those individuals are now deceased. That's a pretty high priority for us.
You say between two groups still, and I know we've spoken in some length about gang violence in the city. Are we saying this was gang violence?
I think it's still too early to say exactly whether or not it was gang violence without having all the information right now. Like I said, it may involve a conflict between two groups. Whether or not either one of those groups involved any type of established gang, we're still working on that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Quick follow-up question for you, Chief Sergeant. When you talk about this reward fund that you guys are establishing, obviously a lot of people are hesitant to talk. Is there a way for someone to come forward in regards to this reward fund anonymously?
We're going to get that information out to you later on today, but that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at to see exactly how we're going to structure that. I mean, we still have Crime Stoppers in place where individuals can report information anonymously to Crime Stoppers, but we still need to work out the details of how this new reward fund is going to work.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. May God continue to bless the city of Savannah, and I'm going to talk with our leadership, Savannah folks, so if y'all can help us by expeditiously continue your day, I appreciate it. Thank you.